Hi, Larry.
Hi.
Greetings to from World University and Schools monthly business meeting.
Okay, before you start, I have to leave at 12:30 my time to get to a dental appointment.
All right.
Got postponed last week because of the snow. So we got to make this a half-hour meeting instead of a 1-hour meeting.
All right. Let's go really quickly then.
Okay.
So this World University and School monthly business meeting on March 19th, 2022 is being recorded, and I may well upload it to YouTube newly as well for outreach and communications. We have newly gotten the option to upload to YouTube again. I don't know what changed, but that's great. So agenda item number one, how best to plan for thousands of students, or perhaps hundreds, matriculating at cc4ocw.mit.edu / World University and School on September 1st, 2022, for both free to students, PhDs, and bachelor degrees. First in English from all 200 countries. Thoughts about that, Larry?
Nothing's different than trying to do it again.
Okay, so we'll continue to plan for a next class in September of 2022 for PhD and bachelors. The direction I'm heading in with this is also that if we can connect further with Google and hear back further from Brendan Chan and Peter Norvig, perhaps they can both help with the design of courses, say putting MIT OpenCourseWare courses into a kind of new template, if you will, the CS first with Google at World University and School sort of template, and at the bachelor and PhD level. And given Peter Norvig's success and Google's success at reaching millions or hundreds of thousands of people, Peter Norvig and Sebastian Thrun's course back in around 2011, I think attracted 170,000 students or something, and 17% finished or something like that.
Have you heard why they haven't tried doing that again?
I have not heard why they have not.
It might be worth trying to figure out, because that might tell us something.
I can
either they made a mistake we should avoid, or whatever reason they haven't done it for 3 years again. So
yeah, for 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years.
Been that long? Okay.
One of the two hypotheses, one, other courses came along, like Coursera and edX and similar, and two, it was a thing of the moment.
Yeah.
And three, it was an experiment. Yeah, it would be. Great. So item 2, thanks again to Senior Program Manager for Computer Science Education at Google, Brendan Chan, for inviting some asks, some requests from World University and School, and sent the requests again. We can perhaps read them. Maybe we read them in the previous monthly business meeting agenda and also minutes, perhaps later if we want. I won't add them to this video right now, for example. Or item 3, World University and School is interested in developing both courses for credit and especially bachelor degrees for 1, play, 2, joy, and 3, engagement in courses, building on CC4 ocw.mit.edu's 2,400 courses. Thoughts about, say, Larry, ocw.mit.edu's wonderful resources are also a bit static on the web. There's web pages with 10 web pages per course and possibly 15 weeks of video lecture. And then this new course from Google comes along, also CC4 licensed, CS First with Google at World University and School for learning the Scratch programming language. And it's much more structured, it's much more engaging. It uses IT. And then the potential for Lego robotics kits to invite and facilitate play emerges. And even maybe newly with a Python language Lego robotics kits Spike Prime course. So there's play potentially with the Lego robotics beyond the engagingness of a new structure from CS First with Google. And then joy might be coded for even loving bliss, neurophysiology generation in music making courses, people making rhythms, singing together, perhaps in structured ways. Thoughts about any of this?
Well, it's not quite as bad, I feel, not as far off as the evaluation of the previous course, but maybe we could begin to probe whether what's being delivered is in fact appreciated by other people. I mean, we have a student completing that computer science first course. I've forgotten his name. Mwande, is that it?
Yeah, it's Mwende, yeah.
Yeah, okay, anyway. Has he finished the course now?
He's making progress. I've checked back in a couple of times.
I know.
He was talking about finishing it by possibly March 22nd, but the sort of 4-month term goes through the end of April. So he hadn't finished it when I last checked.
All right, so whenever he gets finished, then we should see if we can do some kind of questioning of him to see what his experiences were like.
Great, good idea.
Reason I don't want to go off too much on extremes and turn out it's not as good as we think it is. So.
Yeah, maybe the engagement word is for the CS First with Google course, in contrast to ocw.mit.edu, with the word I'm using is static. Maybe the engagement word is too limited. Maybe there's a lot of things that this new CC4 structured course offers that we'll find out if we ask him. Maybe we can ask him in our own WUaS way, differently from what Google might be asking him, or even the metrics they may be getting as he does these projects.
Yeah, I'd like to do it independent of Google, just on the assumption, of course, they would like it to be positive, and so there's always a bias there that you want to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few of the very first lessons, and it turns out that Harvard is requiring all incoming first-year students, I think this autumn in 2022, to study Scratch, maybe with this course or variations of this course. So how we assess it, right?
There I would caution you that computer science has a history of swinging from one thing to another like this.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the days when Pascal was going to take over the world and everybody had to have it, and now nobody uses it.
Yeah.
It just swing every few years, so be careful.
No, I mean, I see that both MIT OpenCourseWare Creative Commons 4 licensed has now a 20-year history, and it's free, and it doesn't offer degrees or credit or much interactivity. And that this CS First with Google at WUaS course is probably 2 or 3 years old in various developments. And
Yeah,
they're
I
different.
didn't say the period was a year or a month, but it's short. That's all I'm worried about.
They're different.
So,
These are different from edX and Coursera, but I'm not sure we'll be able to ask that from a World University and School perspective.
so I just keep it in the back of your mind to be careful.
From Mwende Avende. Yeah, thanks. No, I appreciate there's a lot of
if they would have said they were asking and everybody doing Python, I'd say, oh, that's right on the times. But to say it in Scratch, I think that's a little pushing it.
yeah, I mean, you know, we're still using TCP/IP. That's the so-called backbone of the internet. While things do swing pendulum-wise in terms of cultures of the internet, it's sort of programmers. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Basically, that things don't switch as much in the real world as the people who teach computer science think it quote should. Every couple of years they have a great idea and then they want to incorporate it, and there's, you know, they start up a new thing involving it rather than putting into the old things. So anyway, that's my hang up maybe.
No, thanks. No, I mean, I see hacking as being integral to the internet, and that maybe Scratch is a new hack, but it's become sort of formalized. I don't see swinging as being integral to the internet. In the course I teach on society, information technology, and global university, and that I'm going to turn into a book in English and in German. And but yeah, I will keep. I appreciate your insight into swinging, and those are for computer science, and how there is. It's not a set of railroad tracks, so we say.
That's right. It's not, yeah.
I see a lot of parallels between hacking as one of the cultures that gave rise to the internet and hippies. I think hippies also were integral in all 4 or so cultures of the internet, that including techno-meritocratic, but we're down to about 16 minutes. So item 4, WUaS seeks to develop, for example, virtual anatomical dissections. Fortunately, you and Bernie, an amazing geneticist in Great Britain, wrote on Twitter, ultimately, I believe we need this level of detailed dissection on every cell type, every tissue, and every organ in the human body to build bridges from molecular events through to cellular, to tissue, to organ, to health and disease processes. I hear him coming into conversation with a realistic virtual Earth for medicine, for STEM, with Avatar Bot electronic medical records. And I'm grateful that he wrote that. So we'll see if we can offer you and that further through Google. What do you think?
Well, by the time you push down to that level of microscopic type approach, everybody has something different that wouldn't be in your encyclopedia that you're talking about making, right? Everybody has something that's not quite what the picture says. This is why you have in live autopsy, not autopsies, but you know, have human dissection processes in various labs, because no human looks like the picture. No matter how detailed the picture is, any given person will have many, many deviations from the average. So that will expand what you just talked about encyclopedia-wise. Instead of just being the typical liver, you'd have to have 1,000 different varieties of liver. So it becomes a real big problem. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, fascinating. Thanks. Two ideas in relation to that. You and I think may have some Scottish ancestry, and encyclopedia idea may have come out of certainly Great Britain and possibly the Scottish Enlightenment, but an anatomical dissections may have given rise to Gray's Anatomy, a book that came out of Edinburgh, I think,
Right,
and
I know about it, yeah.
was also probably a big culture, I'll say, in medicine, maybe in the 1700s, in interesting ways. Maybe not for some people who wanted to keep their livers. I don't know. Let's see. With regard to Brendan Chan and Google Education, yesterday morning after I sent out Thursday night the World University and School Agenda and News, someone from Texas, all Asian, and Brendan Chan is from Texas, followed me, and he's working on a biodoc AI. So this is an example of what you're saying, but from an information technology perspective. And I think the posted tweet or top of his tweet is, today we will talk about improving the resolution of optical microscopy to the nanometer range. Please share among your colleagues. So he's creating a computer vision platform for fast moving drug discovery teams. And he was previously in computer science at Stanford and similar. So interesting. Maybe that's one part of the molecular puzzle that can be added to a single realistic virtual Earth for molecular events. And we're going to need 10 million machine learning experts to add everyone's own unique puzzle. Do you think? Is that what you're saying?
Right. That's what I'm saying, that it's not going to happen quickly simply because you need so many variations.
There's a lot of detail down there.
Yes, right.
In the molecular level in that ocean, and all 3 to 100 million species, I guess. Item 5. So Lillian Thomas from Pittsburgh, like where you are, daughter of the former Pittsburgh Post-Gazette senior editor, Clark Thomas, now at the Houston Chronicle, maybe at the city desk again, managing editor, retweeted a Houston Chronicle article about a new amusement world where kids can drive big machinery, heavy construction equipment, and also with courses, a variety of courses. This is a very cool possibility, even thinking in terms of outer space, planets and asteroids, as I see it, for Lego robotics kits. Kids love to drive things, I think. There's driving things in Lego robotics. There's driving things in writing Scratch programming and Python programming for Lego robotics. How could courses come out of this and give even online amusement parks in a realistic virtual Earth for robotics, for kids to start driving early? So build a crew of folks who can drive vehicles from Earth on Mars. What do you think?
Yeah, I think at the present time, and I don't think it'll be forever, but at the present time, that's what kids are interested in.
Huh.
But part of that is driven by the fact that they're not allowed to do it.
Yeah. but why don't you mean big heavy machinery? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they drive Tonka trucks and things all the time. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. I hear you. Maybe. Item 6, appreciating Stanford Medicine Professor Holly Tabor sharing about ethics in a recent Stanford Medicine Grand Rounds, which I was attending for some years. She's a Harvard grad and a Stanford PhD. And in brief, the 4 sort of key aspects for ethics for her are beneficence, non-maleficence, non-wrongdoing, that is, autonomy and justice. Appreciating her perspective on this, and hope it might inform approaches to ethics at World University and School too, to be seen.
Okay.
Item 7, thanks to Jim Sporer, retired IBM champion of innovation and MIT graduate, BS in physics from late 60s, I think, early 70s, and a Yale PhD in computer science from early 80s, I think. He shared a United Nations project, educational project, SDG Academy, Sustainable Development Growth Academy. And I think a Columbia University professor, maybe retired, is heading this as well. And I added it to the World University and School wiki subject page for as a sort of wiki approach around education. Could this open avenues for World University and School to collaborate with the United Nations, even funding wise, since we both want to offer free education in 200 countries and in 7,000 languages, and also potentially end poverty for all 7.9 billion people? Can our wiki be a way to develop even financial relationships with sort of organizations which have potentially similar goals? Thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's sort of a long distance idea, but it's a good idea.
Cool. Item 8, I was over in Marin, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge last Sunday in the San Francisco Bay Area, and was wishing I had a world-class online library on my smartphone for when I was in the field. And I've thought about this over the years and have sought to develop it, but say roadblocks have emerged, and it's possible Stanford libraries could be working on something like this. But the idea would be find out, I wanted to find out what went on in Rodeo Lagoon since over the past 100 years. I couldn't do it very easily. And that's the information you might get at the information center, the visitor center, would be limited. I'd like to find out maybe some of the interesting stuff that might be not in the visitor center books.
Right.
And similarly for, Harbin Hot Springs and subsequent research, you could go to Harbin Publications office in Middletown and digitize that, but to make it one of 10 or 20 libraries. Could we all add our own Harbin libraries? I have a tiny Harbin library that could all be digitized. It could be another archive accessible with machine learning. We're so closed down on the internet still with regard to public libraries, national libraries. It's not easy. There are all these roadblocks for free world-class libraries.
A big one has to be who's paying for it. The bigger your target, I don't want to say audience is not right, but target field is, the less any one part of it is used by any person, and the more expensive per item it becomes to deliver it. And the question is who's paying.
Yeah, I mean,
once again, back to money. That's unfortunately always the case.
Nation states are paying for all of these things, and we're hoping that counties' departments of education will reimburse us per student per year.
All of a sudden, a war pops up, and all the funding for these kind of things goes away. There's this problem.
But I also think it's a cultural thing. It's a closed cultural thing. Public libraries could be much easier to use in the United States, which are already funded online. We could have so many more resources, and since the web began in 1993 or 94 with graphical user interface browsers, we have a kind of shut down web system with regard to library resources. The web is great. Network neutrality continues to grow to a degree of a sort. But I can't easily find out what happened in Rodeo Lagoon in 1920 last Sunday. In any way, I can't find out what happened at Harbin Hot Springs in 1974 easily in any way. And on top of that, I would like for all of us to be able to go to Harbin in 1974 in a realistic virtual earth, text in the sidebar as a kind of library too. Just to add on to this, could we begin to talk to Richard Rorty, the Stanford philosophy professor, comparative literature professor, who might have known the history of Rodeo Lagoon, who's now deceased? Could we talk in avatar bot form, that is? Also with Stanford law professor Hank Greeley, who is alive and may know the history of Rodeo Lagoon. And how would these two, so he could add to his avatar bot's knowledge, for example, someone could interview him in that about Rodeo Lagoon, and that knowledge could then inform further a synthesis, machine learning wise, of everything he might know of Rodeo Lagoon in other ways. And then how would this compare to the opening of world-class libraries as a radical change from the closedness right now of whatever cultural processes are keeping it closed? What do you think?
I think that's the trend of history in the libraries for the last couple hundred years, but that trend is slow, and I think it will be slow continuing.
Okay.
Partly, as I indicated, because of money, but also because people are more interested in what they can do, that is talk, as opposed to what other people know, in other words, listen. You know, all you got to do is look at all the social media. People are much more interested in talking than they are in learning something from somebody else.
Interesting. I mean, I think there's a zillion readers of social media, so listeners, consumers, and I think there are a zillion creators of tweets, producers. So I think it's a many-to-many distributed system. I think the reading goes on, but I haven't been able to add my Harbin Hot Springs library very easily.
Okay,
for example,
I only have about 1 more minute. Is there anything urgent?
Just on the WUaS Corporation side, 3 sort of quick points. Our check was cashed for $800. We've paid our 4th year of taxes, and we're exploring potentially Google and coding teams with a physical digital academic press. The Stanford MindPy opens the possibility of it's moving to the mainnet blockchain. I don't know if we'll be able to buy things with it, but how can we get it to 7.9 billion people to end poverty and combine it with wiki education and list it on the Silicon Valley long-term stock market? Are some quick questions as you go to your dentist. Thoughts?
Okay. Those are key questions. All right, I gotta go. Sorry for cutting off the meeting.
Okay, thank you so much, Larry, for joining Monthly Business Meeting, and
All right.
talk to you again later. Bye for now.
Okay, bye.
So Larry Veland, who's the treasurer of World University and School, just left Monthly Business Meeting, and I'm going to just carry on a little bit with the remaining agenda items for the record that we didn't get to this week or last month, or today or last month. So I'm going to go back to the World University and School wing. We were just talking on the WUaS Corporation wing, to item 9. And the item 9 is DNA adding of, for example, honeybee and Drosophila cells with smartphones. Could we take our smartphone in the field, out on a walk, and with an application for the cells of honeybees at the cellular level, or the cells of Drosophila flies. Add microscopically, video that, and add that data to a single realistic virtual Earth for genetics, a new form of technology for field work. Item 10, potential infinities for world university universitarians to study in a variety of ways. 3 infinities. First infinity, an evolving, iterating, realistic virtual Harbin, realistic virtual Earth in Google Street View with time slider and TensorFlow AI. So people could add video, people could add coding, people could add pictures, people could add the science of the Harbin Hot Springs warm pool, the science of what goes on even in people's brains, bliss-wise in the Harbin Hot Springs warm pool. 2, Stanford Mine Pi, cryptocurrency, free money daily. Is this going to make, generate an unlimited abundance of cash, infinite amounts of cash? And how will this change economies in all 200 countries if it were to become the single cryptocurrency in 200 countries backed by most of their central banks and for speakers of 7,000 languages? To conceive of this infinity will involve a lot of thinking and potentially a lot of books and paper writing too. I'm not sure if any books have been written about the Pi cryptocurrency, let alone with regard to its infinity potential. Let's see if they emerge. Item 3 in item 10, immortality, question mark, with genetic engineering, aging, reversal vaccines, and see Harvard and MIT Professor of Genetics George Church's video on my theory of aging. What does immortality mean for George Church? Or what does immortality mean in these regards as an infinity? Does it mean sort of piping in the right genetic information into our bodies that will allow humans to live beyond 122 years of age, and even somehow infinity-wise? George Church has shared a little bit about this, but these are what the immortality word is, that aging reversal genetics does not lead to immortality, I think he says at the 8-minute mark. But what does he mean by the immortality word? I don't think we have many species that have lived beyond their upper age limit due to genetic engineering yet. Maybe World University and Schools Longevity Genetics Institute can help. The WUaS agenda and news items that WUaS didn't get to on 2/19/22. Item 11, a WUaS music school. By clicking through a digital window for real-time music making, could World University and School focus the programming or coding of this? Latency and lag are still big issues on the internet. See also World University and School's plans for online music schools in all 7,139 living languages, and potentially with all musical instruments, each a wiki subject page for open teaching and learning, depending on usefulness. Academic institutions have a lot of interest in unusual musical instruments, for example. So there's potential use in that way as well. So how to code for a real-time interactive video window for music making, right from your computer, beyond Zoom video or similar. which is interactive and real time, amazingly, thanks to the information technology revolution. And then further, item 11A, how to build into this real-time music making, potentially with symphony musicians as well, over the internet. The joy of sociality. Can one build on the sociality of in-person, face-to-face interactions for some people, and cultivate this and maybe teach it as well, into online interactions after these roughly 2 years of self-quarantine from a non-epidemic? How to build, create code for even the joy of sociality spontaneously, that happens in a physical classroom among learners, for some, for many maybe, as kids maybe, into the online beyond video interactivity environment. Item 12, WUaS archaeology, anthropology, physical, digital, actual, virtual field site collaboration with Harvard Archaeology, building out a realistic virtual Earth for archaeology and geology too, filmed a 3D app in the field, could create images of video of a dig that could then become 3D VR virtual reality, is a dream. It's a ginormous data project in a realistic virtual Earth for archaeology. How could Harvard Archaeology and Anthropology and World University and School collaborate in this? This single realistic virtual Earth is potentially fascinating, and it becomes a library itself. It relates to the Harbin Hot Springs physical, digital, actual, virtual field site that I'm continuing to work on developing after the first book of the World University and School Press, Naked Harbin Ethnography in 2016 published. These are the questions that I'm focusing on here. Item 13, Gmail information technologies to build out WUaS translation in 7,139 living languages with people, World University and School people, and machine learning. Could we use the structure of Gmail teams in these regards as a prototype? So thanks to Brendan Shan, Senior Program Manager, Computer Science Education at Google, for coming into conversation about this. So item 14, WUaS film to 3D apps that WUaS creates regarding upcoming computer science programs. Film to 3D apps at the Street View and Time Slider levels, or with these apps. This is an upcoming proposed paper where we would create upcoming proposed programs that World University and School seeks to create, potentially with Google, such that these film to 3D applications at the Street View level, at the cellular level, and at the molecular level, for molecular level events, would land in a Google Street View with Time Slider, Google Maps, Google Earth, Google TensorFlow AI environment. So you would video with your smartphone at the cellular level, the science, the biology you were looking at. It would find its a situatedness coding-wise in Google Street View with Time Slider, and then become virtual reality 3D that one could begin to work with science-wise. One could reprogram the cells that one had just videoed at the cellular level. So one would reprogram these digital cells, maybe to increase lifespan, and then potentially, having created these 3D film to 3D apps, added them to a realistic virtual Earth, reprogram the virtual reality cells, potentially upload them back to a honeybee or a Drosophila fly or a human, and program them for longevity, program them for aging reversal. So that's what these film to 3D apps would facilitate, new technologies. Item 15, an upcoming paper, comparative genomics paper, modeling beyond sequencing their genomes together. Human, dog, mouse, chicken, honeybee, Drosophila fly, and for longevity genetics with machine learning to predict lifespans beyond oldest individuals in these species. In Google Street View with Time Slider, Maps, Earth, TensorFlow AI, Translate, and with realistic avatar bots at the cellular and molecular levels too. Developing this for aging reversal genetics, engineering, and research too. Item 15A, upcoming paper 2024, do-it-yourself home genetics paper, modeling beyond sequencing species genomes together in a realistic virtual Earth for genetics. Item 16, World University and School is seeking a new chancellor. We're also seeking a new chair of the board, and stay tuned in these regards as we seek to build out further in these ways. So I'm just going to reiterate this is changing to the second wing, the WS Corporation wing of World University and School, that we already addressed about 10 minutes ago here. But the WS Corporation, WS Press, there are about 4 items here. WS Corporation paid its 4th CA financial franchise tax board, California tax bill of $800 for 2021. About 3 weeks ago, the check was cashed. Item B, Google and coding teams for the physical digital academic press in 7,139 living languages and in 200 countries and bookstores. With bookstores, computer stores, robotics stores, hospital technologies, distribution centers, and building on Brendan Shan's asks above. So more collaboration and communication between WUaS and Google coding teams, and for WS bookstores, robotics stores in Google Street View 2. Ask Google Education's Brendan Shan further. Item C, WS Lego Robotics. We're official carriers of 3 Lego robotics kits, Mindstorms and Lego Spike Prime for 2, and the retired We Do 2.0 Lego robotics kit as well. So could World University and School collaborate with Lego Robotics to help design the physical digital WUaS robotics stores, even in Gulf of Guinea countries, in Africa, and in all 200 countries, combined with perhaps the knowledge that Google has gained and the information technology they have developed with the Google New York City store, and possibly regarding bookstores, cafes with Starbucks cafes too. Could we design the WUS physical digital stores in Cameroon and the other Gulf of Guinea countries together somehow? Item CI, for WS Lego Robotics Kits 2, could we engage this first construction-themed amusement park for a virtual Lego Robotics Kits amusement park and extend that to many countries and students and similar? Item D, Stanford MindPi, free money, cryptocurrency, and infinity. Is this an unlimited abundance of financial resources? And could we also at World University and School make this available to all 200 countries, all nation states. And by listing it on the Silicon Valley Long-Term Stock Exchange. This is as the Stanford MindPy develops to the mainnet blockchain. So thank you. And I'm going to stop here with monthly business meeting at World University and School on March 19th, 2022. And the next monthly business meeting is on April 16th, third Saturday of the month, 9 a.m. Until then, meeting at worlduniversityandschool.org is the email address. Worlduniversityandschool.org is the URL. And twitter.com/world UNIVANDSCH is the Twitter feed. You're welcome to join monthly business meeting. I'll post this newly to YouTube. Until next time, thanks. worlduniversityandschool.org, seeking students for online free to students degrees beginning again in September. Bye for now.